you know, there are a couple things, but mostly it's the mantra, right? You want to be as independent and self-sufficient as possible. So that's food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. That's where you have the physical metals that come in that are in your possession, that are actually truly invisible. And you have to be creating that community so that we can come together and help each other. Because if you stay inside of the system, you're dependent completely on the system, then they got you. Then you have to do what they want you to do in order to survive. So you have to counter that. We vote with our wallets. That's how we vote. So putting in your food source, your energy source, putting your water source, all of that, securing that, that's the only way, in my opinion, that we can do this. If the central banks, who have been buying gold hand over fist, 2022, the highest since 1967, and the start of this year at higher levels than they have ever seen, what does that tell you about central banks? Because they're pulling that off the market. That's why these other hedge funds or any other ETFs or any of that, they're having trouble getting the physical metal because it's just not available. And that's what people don't understand. And so the premiums go up because they're suppressing the visible price. Because we all know this, a rising gold price, this is the primary currency metal, period, right? So a rising gold price is an indication of a failing currency, right? If you understand, or I should say, once you understand that this currency is failing, boy, don't you make different choices. They have created a ton of paper gold and paper silver so they can make the price look however they want to make it look and trade on it. But when you get to the physical world, there is a finite amount, period, end of discussion. Community is arguably the most important part of this because one person can't really do it all themselves. You know, I'm doing a lot, but the reality is I have a whole community of people that are supporting what I'm trying to accomplish, right? And somebody asked me today, well, in your bug out location, which I'm planning for 40 people, so everything I'm doing is geared toward 40 people.
Okay.
And, you know, they said, well, how do you choose, aside from your family, because family gets in, obviously, but how do you choose? And it's skill sets. So I think this is a great time to develop some new skill sets that you have or to sharpen the skill sets that you already have. And I think that's critically important in your neighborhood. To your point, I'm lucky in that I live in a neighborhood that's very walkable. So I know my neighbors, right? And so you need to your point, get to know your neighbors. Now, a lot of people, again, to your point, are not really paying attention. But all of my neighbors know I'm growing food. When you see those repeatable patterns, and they happen over 4,800 times, 100% of the time, and we're doing the same thing, the most likely outcome is we're going to get the same result. So I put together a strategy for myself based upon these repeatable patterns. And it's really quite simple. I used to own stocks and bonds and all that kind of stuff. I don't own any of that anymore because what I realized was everything has a life cycle. And I can guarantee you, I am at a different point in my life cycle at 68 than my granddaughter that just turned 8, right? Different life cycle, but everything has that. So when I went to ITM Trading, obviously I brought that strategy in with me and we just kind of tweaked it over the years because there's lots of talent there. And so we customized the strategy. It's the same basic strategy that I'm executing for myself. But the thing that we put first are your goals and your circumstances. What do you have to work with? And then we build it from there so that what you're doing actually supports what you're trying to accomplish. Your goals have to come first. They have to come first.
Yeah.
And the strategy encompasses everything. I mean, definitely this is your foundation, is the gold and the silver, because it's real money and it's globally recognized and it has the broadest base of functionality. Gold and silver, physical gold and silver, are used across every single sector of the global economy. So that means it has the broadest base of functionality, lots and lots of functions, and it has the broadest base of buyer. So it doesn't have to pay you any interest, because it's the safest thing that you can do, because 100% of the time there is demand. And availability is one thing, right? Because it's physical and it's finite. When that comes off the market, it's off the market. You have to wait until somebody's willing to sell it. Having said that, liquidity-wise, there are always people. I get this question a lot, is, well, who's going to want to buy my gold when it's, let's just even say $10 million an ounce, which may sound outrageous at this moment, but probably if you had said, well, it's going to be $2,000 an ounce when it was $20, this is a $20 gold piece, that would have sounded outrageous too. Well, there are always people with wealth and money, and they're going to want to protect it. Look at Zimbabwe coming out with the 1 ounce coins, and now coming out with presumably digital gold tokens for the population. Well, there is absolutely no doubt but that the dollar's position as the world reserve currency is over. In fact, I've never seen the dollar have this low. I think it's, I may not be exactly accurate, but I'll be pretty close. I believe that only 47%, the dollar makes up only 47% of global reserves now. I mean, that's like nothing. And when you look at what's happening as in terms of GDP, but the BRICS nations are on course. They're actually, their contribution to GDP is higher than the G7's contribution to GDP. So there is absolutely 100% a major power shift that is happening as we transition from the current fiat system into, the goal is the new fiat system being more controlled, the CBDCs, to your point. The bank failures caught people's attention, but they really put a lid on this piece pretty quickly by bailing everybody out, which should have been a huge red flag, right? Because who they really bailed out were hedge funds. That's who they bailed out. First time, 2008, they bailed out the banks. This time they bailed out the hedge funds. So, and to your point, First Republic coming up because they're trying to sell assets that are well underwater, because obviously when interest rates go up, then the market principal value goes down. So interest rates up really high, now they're going to sell these assets at a huge loss.